Chosen one, listen closely. What you're about to hear is not random, and your presence here is not an accident. While you stayed loyal, honest, and real, someone chose shortcuts. They traded something sacred for something fake. At first, it looked like they won. They smiled. They moved fast. They thought they were clever. But now, the truth is catching up. The same choice they celebrated in silence has turned into regret they can't escape. You don't see it, but it's eating them alive. Because deep down, they know they lost the real thing when they betrayed you. This moment is not about revenge, it's about revelation. God allowed you to step back so you wouldn't be contaminated by what was false. What hurt you refined you. What broke you strengthened you. And now, as they sit with guilt and confusion, you stand with clarity and protection. Stay focused, because this message carries value for your spirit and confirmation for your heart. Everything is balancing out in divine timing. Before we go deeper, you must connect with this energy. Like this video to align with the message. Comment below, "Thank you, God, for protecting me from what was fake." And subscribe to the channel to send your signal to the universe, because messages like this don't find everyone, only the chosen ones. The betrayal was a choice, not an accident. Chosen one, take a deep breath and really let this sink in, because what happened to you was not some random confusion or bad timing. It wasn't an accident, and it definitely wasn't your fault. It was a choice, clear, intentional, and deliberate. The person who betrayed you knew exactly who you were. They saw how genuine you were, how loyal you stood, how pure your intentions were. They benefited from your honesty, your support, your presence. Nothing about you was hidden from them. So when they turned away, it wasn't because they didn't understand your value. It was because they did. And that scared them. Some people are comfortable around surface-level connections, but when real depth shows up, they feel exposed. Your authenticity held up a mirror they weren't ready to look into. Being close to you required honesty, growth, and accountability. And instead of rising to that level, they chose the easier path. They chose something fake because fake doesn't challenge them. Fake doesn't ask them to grow. Fake lets them stay the same, while pretending they've moved forward. Understand this clearly. Betrayal often comes from people who feel smaller in the presence of truth. Your consistency highlighted their instability. Your integrity revealed their shortcuts. Your light made their shadows uncomfortable. So rather than working on themselves, they walked away from you. Not because you were too much, but because you were too real. It hurts because you didn't expect it. You gave from a genuine place. You trusted. You believed that loyalty would be met with loyalty. And when that trust was broken, it shook you. Not because you were weak, but because you were sincere. That pain doesn't mean you were foolish. It means your heart was open, and that is never something to be ashamed of. What's important now is not replaying the betrayal, but understanding its purpose. This experience revealed who they truly were and who you never needed to become. It showed you that not everyone who stands beside you is meant to walk with you long term. Some people are only comfortable with you as long as you don't outgrow them, outshine them, or awaken something in them they've been avoiding. You didn't lose anything valuable in this situation. What left your life was already misaligned. The betrayal didn't reduce your worth. It refined your awareness. It taught you discernment. It taught you boundaries. It taught you that your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. Don't wonder what you could have done differently. You showed up as your true self, and that is your power. The choice they made says everything about them and nothing negative about you. You remained authentic. They chose comfort over truth. And in the long run, that difference will shape two very different paths. You're still standing because you were built on something real, and that is something no betrayal can ever take away. Why the fake looked better? At first, chosen one, it's completely natural if, in the beginning, what they chose looked better than what they walked away from. The fake always arrives with noise. It shines brightly, demands attention, and creates the illusion of happiness. From the outside, it may have seemed like they upgraded their life, their choices, or their direction. You may have questioned yourself, wondering how something so shallow could replace something so real. But here's the truth you need to understand in a calm, grounded way. Fake things are designed to impress quickly, not last deeply. What they stepped into gave them instant validation. It made them feel wanted, admired, and temporarily important. There was no effort required, no responsibility, no emotional maturity needed. Fake connections often feel easier because they don't demand honesty or growth. They allow people to escape rather than evolve. And for someone who was already running from their inner work, that comfort felt like relief. God allows this illusion on purpose, not to hurt you, but to teach them. Some lessons can't be explained. They have to be experienced. God lets people taste exactly what they asked for so they can understand the difference between pleasure and peace. What they thought was happiness was actually distraction. What they believed was freedom was really avoidance. And at first, avoidance feels good because it numbs the discomfort they didn't want to face. But here's what always happens. The shine starts to fade. The excitement gets quiet. The validation stops hitting the same. Fake things don't have depth, so once the surface wears off, there's nothing to hold on to. That's when restlessness enters. That's when comparison begins. That's when they start thinking about what they left behind. Not because they want it back, but because they feel something missing inside themselves. What looked like a win to the world was actually the start of their internal collapse. Not a loud breakdown, but a slow one. A confusion they can't explain. A dissatisfaction they can't name. Fake can entertain, but it can't sustain. It can distract, but it can't fulfill. And deep down, they know it. Meanwhile, while they were chasing excitement, you were being preserved. God kept you away from something that would have drained your spirit over time. You weren't meant to compete with illusion. You were meant to outlast it. Real things don't rush. They don't shout. They don't need to prove themselves. They grow quietly, steadily, and with purpose. Your silence is what triggered their regret. Chosen one, what truly shifted everything was not your words, your explanations, or your emotions. It was your silence. When you chose calm over chaos, dignity over desperation, and peace over proving your point, something inside them started to crack. They expected reactions. They expected you to chase, to question yourself, to demand answers. They expected noise. But instead, they were met with stillness. And that silence did something your arguments never could. It forced them to sit with their own choices. Your decision not to beg or fight for attention was powerful. Even if you didn't realize it at the time, you simply stepped back. You stopped explaining your worth. You stopped trying to be understood by someone who had already decided not to understand you. That quiet withdrawal removed the distraction they were relying on. Without your energy feeding the situation, They were left alone with the consequences of what they did. Silence has a way of revealing truth. When there is no reaction to distract them, no emotional exchange to lean on, reality becomes impossible to escape. That's when regret begins, not loudly, but deeply. It starts as confusion. Then it turns into discomfort. Then it becomes a realization they can't unsee. They begin to notice the absence of your presence, your support, your consistency. And that absence speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. What they started to understand is this: energy cannot be replaced. People can replace faces, voices, routines, but not essence. Your calm, your sincerity, your steady presence was something unique. And once it was gone, they felt the difference. That's when the haunting began. Not because you tried to make them feel guilty, but because your peace showed them what they lost. Your silence also showed strength. It communicated self-respect without a single word. It showed that you valued yourself enough to walk away instead of shrinking to be chosen. That's unsettling for someone who expected control. They thought they could move on easily, but the quiet made everything louder. Every moment of stillness became a reminder of the wrong choice they made. Meanwhile, your silence protected you. It kept you from saying things you'd later regret. It allowed your nervous system to settle. It gave you space to heal without reopening wounds. You didn't need closure from them because you gave it to yourself. And that inner closure is what made your silence so final and so powerful. Walking away peacefully is not weakness, it's mastery. Silence, when chosen from self-respect, becomes a mirror others can't avoid. And once someone realizes they can't replace your energy, regret doesn't knock, it moves in and stays. God removed you to protect you. Chosen one, what happened to you was not meant to destroy you, even though it felt painful at the time. God did not allow that situation to break you. He allowed it to protect you. Sometimes protection doesn't look gentle. Sometimes it looks like separation, disappointment, or loss. But behind it all, there was a deeper purpose at work. God could see what you couldn't yet see. He knew that if you had stayed in that environment, relationship, or situation, your spirit would have slowly weakened. If you had remained there, you would have been constantly drained, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You would have kept giving, while receiving less and less in return. Your growth would have been delayed because you were surrounded by energy that didn't match where God was taking you. Over time, that imbalance would have dimmed your clarity and confidence. God will never let what He is building in you be slowly poisoned by something fake. The betrayal you experienced was not random. It was divine redirection. God used that moment to move you away from something that looked familiar but was no longer safe for your future. Sometimes God doesn't remove us gently because we wouldn't leave on our own. We stay loyal, hopeful, and patient far longer than we should. So God steps in and closes the door firmly, not to punish us, but to spare us. Being separated from what was fake was necessary so your destiny could stay clean. You are carrying something valuable inside you: vision, purpose, depth, and spiritual sensitivity. That kind of calling cannot survive in places filled with deception, manipulation, or half-truths. God removed you before the damage became permanent. What felt like rejection was actually rescue. At the time, the pain confused you. You questioned why things ended the way they did. You wondered why it had to hurt so much. But now, as you gain clarity, you can start to see it differently. That experience sharpened your discernment. It taught you to recognize red flags earlier. It strengthened your boundaries. It brought you closer to God instead of further away. What hurt you also saved you. The same event that made you cry also broke chains you didn't even know were forming. God didn't just remove something from your life. He preserved something within you. He protected your peace, your future relationships, and your ability to walk fully into what He has planned next. Why regret is eating them alive now. Chosen one. There comes a moment that people never plan for. The moment after the excitement fades. This is the phase they didn't see coming. At first, everything felt new and thrilling. There was distraction, noise, and constant movement. But fake things cannot hold attention forever. Once the rush wore off, silence returned. And in that silence, reality began to speak. The mask they were wearing slowly slipped, and what remained was not peace, but emptiness. The fake could never offer depth. It couldn't hold meaningful conversations, provide emotional safety, or support growth. It was built on surface-level comfort, not real connection. Over time, that lack started to show. What once felt exciting began to feel repetitive. What once felt easy began to feel hollow. And that's when comparison quietly entered their mind. Without trying to, memories of you started resurfacing. Not because they wanted to feel guilty, but because your presence had substance. Your consistency gave stability. Your honesty created trust. Your energy felt safe. Those things don't shout, but they stay. When life slowed down and distractions faded, those memories had space to return. And once they did, they couldn't be ignored. Regret rarely shows itself openly. It doesn't always come with apologies or messages. Most of the time, it lives internally. It shows up as restlessness, never feeling fully satisfied. It appears as overthinking late at night, replaying decisions that can't be undone. It surfaces as emotional emptiness, even when surrounded by people. These are the quiet signs of someone realizing they traded something real for something temporary. They feel it the most when life goes quiet, when there's no one to impress, no noise to hide behind, and no distraction to escape into. In those moments, the truth becomes loud. They start questioning their choices, wondering why peace feels so far away. That's when regret starts to eat at them, not dramatically, but constantly. Meanwhile, you are learning a different lesson. You're discovering that what's real doesn't disappear with time. It becomes clearer. You didn't need to compete, explain, or prove anything. Your value reveals itself in absence. And while you've been healing, they've been confronting the consequences of their own decisions. This isn't about watching someone suffer. It's about understanding how truth works. Real things leave an imprint. Fake things leave a gap. And when someone finally feels that gap, regret becomes unavoidable. You moved forward with integrity. They moved forward with illusion. Now, the difference between the two paths is becoming impossible to ignore. This is not about revenge. It's about balance. Chosen one. It's important to understand this part clearly, because it protects your heart from bitterness. What is happening now is not about revenge, and it is not God hurting someone else to make you feel better. God does not operate that way. What you're witnessing is balance. It's the natural order of spiritual law, cause and effect unfolding in its own time. You chose to stay real. Even when it hurt, even when it cost you something, you stayed honest with yourself and with God. You didn't become bitter. You didn't turn manipulative. You didn't fake healing just to look strong. Because of that, clarity started entering your life. Your thoughts became calmer. Your intuition became sharper. Your decisions became more aligned. Peace found its way back to you, slowly but steadily. They chose something fake. They chose comfort over truth and illusion over growth. And that choice didn't bring instant chaos. It brought confusion. Confusion about what they want. Confusion about why they feel unsettled. Confusion about why nothing feels solid anymore. That confusion isn't punishment, it's feedback. Life responding honestly to the energy they chose. You don't need to celebrate their struggle. In fact, the more grounded you become, the less interest you'll have in watching someone else's downfall. That's how you know you're healing. Your peace is the proof that you walked the right path. While others are stuck replaying choices, you're learning how to move forward without carrying emotional weight. God doesn't need noise to bring justice. He doesn't need public drama, arguments, or confrontation. He works quietly. He uses time. Time reveals what words can't. Time shows who was genuine and who was pretending. Time exposes what was built on truth and what was built on illusion. What feels slow is actually precise. God allows things to unfold naturally, so no one can deny the lesson. You don't have to explain your side, defend your heart, or justify your actions. Your calm, your growth, and your stability speak for you. That's balance in action. This season is teaching you something powerful. Staying true never leaves you empty. It may feel lonely for a moment, but it always leads to clarity and peace. Choosing fake may feel exciting at first, but it always ends in confusion. That's not revenge. That's alignment. Your upgrade happened in the background, chosen one. While everything around you felt quiet and even uneventful, something very important was happening beneath the surface. While others were busy chasing appearances, attention, and quick validation, you were being rebuilt from the inside out. There were no announcements, no applause, and no visible signs at first, but the most powerful changes never start on the outside. They begin in silence, where character is shaped and strength is formed. You began setting stronger boundaries, even if you didn't fully realize it at the time. You stopped explaining yourself to people who had already made up their minds. You became more selective with your energy, your time, and your emotional investment. This wasn't you becoming cold, it was you becoming wise. You learned that access to you is earned, not automatic. Your intuition also became sharper. Situations that once confused you now feel clearer. You sense intentions before words are spoken. You can tell when something is off without needing proof. This didn't come from pain alone. It came from growth. Experience trained your discernment, and silence gave it space to strengthen. Your faith deepened in a quieter way too. Instead of asking God for constant signs, you learned to trust the process. You stopped needing reassurance from people because your inner foundation became stronger. That kind of faith isn't loud, but it's unshakable. It carries you through uncertainty without panic. You may not feel excited like you once did, and that's okay. Excitement often comes from chaos and unpredictability. What you feel now is stability, and stability is power. You're no longer easily shaken by opinions, reactions, or rejection. You don't need external validation to feel secure. You've learned how to stand on your own emotional ground. Because of this upgrade, you are no longer easy to access, manipulate, or replace. Not everyone gets close to you anymore, and that's intentional. Your presence has weight now. Your absence is felt. You don't chase. You observe. You don't react. You choose. That's why this season feels different. You're operating from awareness instead of emotion. You didn't just survive what you went through. You didn't just get over it. You transformed because of it. The version of you that emerged is more grounded, more discerning, and more aligned. This is what real growth looks like. Quiet, solid, intentional. God is preparing you for the real thing. Chosen one, there is a reason certain things had to leave your life, even when you weren't ready to let them go. The fake did not walk away by accident. It was removed so the real could finally make its way to you. God is very intentional about what He places into your hands. He will never give you something genuine while you are still holding on to illusions, half-truths, or attachments that no longer serve your growth. Space had to be created, and that space is sacred. Right now, God is preparing you on a deeper level than you realize. He's teaching you discernment so you don't confuse attention with love or comfort with alignment. You're learning the difference between someone who stays for convenience and someone who stays with commitment. These lessons aren't meant to harden your heart. They're meant to protect it. The real things God is sending require maturity, awareness, and self-respect. The connections being prepared for you will not betray you. They won't require you to shrink, over-explain, or constantly prove your worth. These are relationships built on honesty, consistency, and mutual growth. You won't feel anxious or unsure around them. You'll feel safe, seen, and supported. That's how you'll know they're real. God is also aligning you with environments that don't drain you, places where your energy isn't consumed but appreciated, where you don't feel exhausted after giving your best, where your presence adds value and your growth is encouraged, not threatened. These environments will allow you to flourish instead of survive. The blessings coming your way won't expire. They won't be based on trends, appearances, or temporary excitement. They'll be steady, meaningful, and lasting. What God gives you next will have roots, not just shine. And because of that, it will grow with you instead of fading when times get quiet. Most importantly, what's coming won't need to be chased. You won't have to force conversations, beg for consistency, or prove your intentions. The real recognizes the real. What is aligned with you will naturally find you. It will meet you at your level of growth, not pull you backward. This waiting period is not a delay. It's preparation. God is clearing your path, strengthening your discernment, and refining your spirit. When the real arrives, you'll be ready to receive it without fear, confusion, or compromise. And when it does, you'll understand why nothing fake was allowed to stay. Before you move forward, lock this message into your spirit. Like this video to align with divine truth. Comment, "Thank you, God, for protecting me from what was fake." And subscribe to the channel to send your signal to the universe, because messages like this don't reach everyone. They reach the chosen ones.